Out of the kindness of my heart, I am making a few videos to go over what we missed in class today because I felt like it would be easier to help y'all catch up this way. I've made a separate video for how to set up your A1 Part 2 project of Process Makes Perfect, which is setting up your document, cleaning it up, and beginning to color it in Photoshop. This is going to be due Tuesday before class. It needs to be uploaded to your OneDrive folder before the beginning of class. So today we kind of reviewed some of the key concepts from the first 6 lessons of your Photoshop books, and I made a list on the blog of some of the key things to be familiar with, such as the basics: resolution, image size, straightening, cropping, selections, healing tools, layers, adjustment layers, and a few other fun things. We then did a clipping image exercise in class. If you click this link on the blog, you can download the handout, which has some instructions. Using the methods we demonstrated in class that I'm about to demonstrate in this video, clip out the following images. You should have 2 layers in each file: the original, hidden, and then a clipped element. And then you're going to clip all these images out, and then you're going to combine them on top of the television photograph to create a new scene. And then I have instructions for save all of these as PSDs, name each file your first initial, last name, underscore, pineapple, orange, turtle, flower, game pieces, woman, and then your final, just name it TV. And you're to upload all of these into your OneDrive folder inside a new folder that you name PS E1 Clipping for Photoshop Exercise 1 Clipping. Okay, so these image files can be found by clicking this link on the blog. It'll download a zip file from Dropbox, or you can go to the class shared file on OneDrive and click PSE1 Clipping Mask. Actually, sorry, wrong folder. That's where all our finals are. Click in Class Documents, Week 4, Day 8, Photoshop E1 Clipping Mask, and in here you will find the exercise files. So you're going to download these files. You're going to clip out the orange, the turtle, the flower, at least one or more of the game pieces, the lady, and the pineapple. And then you're going to combine those things onto the television. So, for example, these are the compositions your classmates and I put together today. So you can pretty much do whatever you want. The goal is to make it look like these images are on the TV. So you can add stuff outside the TV if you want, but you just need to add at least 2 or 3 images inside the TV and make them appear like they're in the television, so like this is a good example here because you can see that the way this has been blended, the television highlights interact with the turtle in a way that makes it look like that's inside the television. You can have some fun with it. Okay, so I've got the image files right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and open all of these in Photoshop. My interface might look a little different from yours because I'm at home on my PC, but everything should be mostly the same. Okay, so the turtle. So basically each of these images, I want you to go through and figure out how to clip them. Some of the selection tools we used are things like the quick selection tool. You just brush over the turtle to get, and then you can see I added too much to the selection, so I'm going to hold down my modifier key On a PC, it's Alt. I believe it is Option on a Mac. But you can always click these little icons in the option bar. So that one is subtract from selection to go back around. But actually for this, like for several of these, it's great to start with the quick selection tool. It's called quick selection because it quickly like guesses at what you're trying to select. But then you're going to want to go in and refine your selection. So like for instance, you may go in with the lasso tool and add or subtract from the selection to get a better line. You know, do try to practice the various selection tools you encountered in the book. I'm just doing a rough selection on this for the purpose of this demo. Okay, so we're just going to say that's close enough. So now I'm going to hit this mask icon to knock out the background. I could also, actually let me back up. Each of these documents, when you first open it, right click on the layer and click duplicate layer. Name it whatever the object is, so turtle, and hide the original layer. That way, if you mess up your clipped image, you'll always have the original to go back to. Okay, so now I'm going to mask that layer. Now, I could also select the inverse so that the background, not the turtle, is selected, and hit delete. Okay, I've got a chunk missing out of my turtle, but it'll work. It's fine. For some of these images, remember you can use the magic wand tool. Sometimes it's easier to select the background than it is to select the foreground. So in this case, it's much easier to use the magic wand tool to select the background. And you can either, we got to remember to duplicate the layer. And there you go. Let's see. What were some of these other images? So, okay, for instance, what you're going to be doing with the television is you're going to clip all of these images out, and then you're to combine them in various ways on the TV. And one of the ways you can combine them is I am clicking this image layer and dragging, and notice when I start to drag, it changes to a fist, and I'm going to hover over the name of these images until I find the one of the TV, and I'm just going to drag it in. And it'll ask you if you want to blah, 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 and just hit OK. So now we've got a turtle in here. So now let's go clip some other things. We'll do the same with the flower. Okay. Okay, for the girl, for this, you're going to want to practice going into the select and mask screen. So I lost my menu. There. Select. Okay, so for this one, go to select, select and mask. I want you to, in this mode, remember in your book it told you how to work with the different options, but as a quick refresher, in the view mode you can change how you view this. You can have what's called the onion skin, which is the transparency grid on top of it. You can work with overlay, which is usually the most helpful, on black, on white, on layers, whichever. Like oftentimes you will switch back and forth between different view modes. So we're going to start with this on overlay mode, and we're going to take this quick selection tool over here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, by using my bracket keys, or you can adjust the size right here. And I'm just going to quickly paint over the parts of the girl that I want to keep. Try to stay within within the object you're selecting when you're using the quick mask. Now I'm pressing Option and going back in and deleting a few bits. But you can see that it does a pretty good job, but there are bits that it missed, like between the arms. And then this side of the arm is really soft. And then this part of her dress just blends in with the background so much that it couldn't get it. So, and then also around the hair, there are some areas that we want to rework. So now I'm going to use the Refine Edge brush tool, which is great for things like hair. And I'm going to sweep over the hair. Kind of messed up this area right here, so I'm going to have to come back to that. I'm going to see what it looks like over the dress. Not really great. Let's see, what about the arm? It kind of helps with the arm. It's okay. Okay, there's also the brush tool, which works just like the paintbrush. You literally paint to reveal or to hide. I think it's often easier to like I'm painting this back in because it's easier to remove, in my opinion, than it is to when you can see what you're working with than to just guess where things end. So like for instance, there are multiple ways to do this, but using the brush tool, you could just come in and paint along the edge of the dress to redefine that edge. You could also switch to the lasso tool, draw a selection. Oh wait, make sure it is, we want to subtract from selection and trace around what you want to remove. But that edge looks horrible. So let's go back to the brush tool. I gotta remember to hold down Option. I'm using a small brush size. You can see this is about a 7, so that I have more control when tracing along the details. So you can see, nope. Whenever you make a mistake, just remember Command Z. So here's one more spot that we want to remove, tracing along with the lasso tool. Remember to check your if you have trouble, it's probably because one of the tool options is set to something different. Often there's a new selection, add to selection, subtract to selection, and intersect up here. You will most often use add to selection, though in this case I'm using subtract. In this mode, your selection is anything that's not covered in red. We can change the view mode to see that we can see the marching ants for our selection. So let's zoom in. So looking at this mode, we can see that we're missing some of the hair. So maybe let's just take the lasso tool and draw that hair back. See, I'm in the wrong mode, so you gotta switch add to selection. So we can see that, all right, looks like it's pretty close to all our edges. The hair was really the only place that it was really off. However, I'm going to switch back to overlay mode because you can see that there's all this white coming through. So now I'm going to go back to the Refine Brush tool, and I'm just going to paint over that because it's going to help soften that edge. And then to also check, you can view, so she was on a really light colored background. So like looking at her on a white background, you're not really going to be able to tell much. So let's look at her on a dark background, and we can adjust how dark this background is with this opacity slider right here. So if you like slide it all the way, you can tell there's some roughness going on, and oh, now we can tell, yeah, we made her arm look weird. So let me just take this quick selection tool and go back over her arm. That looks much better. All right, so not perfect, but good enough for this purpose. So the next thing we're going to do is on the right side, there are different collapsible panels. We want to go to Global Refinements. I'm going to zoom in so I can look at these edges. And we're going, so notice when I do smooth, what it's doing is it's smoothing the lines around the selection. We don't need it that much. I'm just exaggerating so you can see the effect. We're going to put that around 7. Feather basically creates like a gradient transparency, but we don't need that. But that's what it does. Contrast, adjust the crispness of the edge. We're something around 26% looks right for this. And now we're going to shift the edge. We're shifting the edge inward, or also known as contracting the selection, so that we don't have so much of a halo on the outside. Our last step is going to be choosing how to output this. You can output it as a new layer with mask or as a new layer. I'm going to go for new layer with layer mask. So now you'll see you have your original down here that's turned off. You have your layer here. I'm going to duplicate that layer. You can do that by right-clicking, hitting duplicate layer. Now I'm going to command-click on the mask itself, which will select the area that has been masked. I'm then going to click on the thumbnail, and I'm going to hit Command X to remove those pixels. I'm going to hide the layer. And then I hit Command V to paste the layer. So we'll put that there. So like if you were working with this image, most of the time you want to use a mask. But because I'm going to be copying this onto the TV, I just want this layer that doesn't have a mask attached to it. So we're going to grab this, put it on top of the TV, and there we go. Okay, just a quick note on a few of these others. For this one, I would suggest playing with like the marquee selection tools to start with things, and then I think most of us use the magnetic lasso around these. It's going crazy. Okay, so like I don't know where my endpoint is, so I'm pressing Control and clicking, and it found it on its own. And so when you're working on this one, to do all the game pieces, you want to make sure the Add to Selection is turned on, so that when you go to the next piece, it doesn't remove the first selection, and you can just see how that tried to remove the selection because Add to Selection wasn't on. So we're going to do this, and then here, pretend that I clip these. I'm going to draw a thing here and a thing here, and then you can either hit Mask, or you can select, inverse, and delete. Selecting inverse and delete, like just deleting the pixels isn't going to give you like a great looking edge. Like if you're really trying to do something that's well crafted, you want to work with a layer mask, or in the selected mask option. But this gives you an idea of how you would work with a group of items that you want to save out as a selection. No. Okay, we got our girl. Okay, last for the pineapple. Okay, this is your big challenge. You're going to have to do this one mostly on your own, and it's going to require a few different tools. But to help get you started, The biggest challenge in this image is that there's not a lot of contrast with the pineapple, and it's very similar in tone to the background. So a lot of the selection tools that we rely on just aren't going to work that great. One of the things that we can do to help make selecting this object easier is add more contrast. And for this image, I think a great way to do that is to duplicate the layer. So first, remember, we're duplicating our layers and hiding this one. Now we're going to right click, duplicate the layer again, get our pineapple copy. For our pineapple copy layer, the top layer, we're going to use a blending mode, specifically a multiply blending mode, to create more contrast. So here's it off and on. You can see it makes that pineapple much easier to see. So now with that selected, I'm going to go to my quick selection tool and quickly trace in part of the shape. Subtract what I don't want to be part of the shape. And then for this, you need to use a combination of tools to come in and create the shape. So, remember what all your selection tools are. You've got your marquee tools, you've got your lasso tools, you've got your quick select, and your magic wand. So for this one, experiment with a variety of those tools to get the pineapple clipped out. Okay, so the last part of this exercise is making some sort of image on the television. So let's check back to, which one is it? Okay. Open the television photograph. Clip out the images. Place your image collage inside the television screen. Use blending modes to create a realistic effect. Okay, so remember the key thing is here. You can, let's say you have to use at least 3 images. You can include all if you want. But so you're going to use like the transform tool to scale things down to size, to stick in the television. Let's say I don't want the flower. I'm just going to leave turtle floating in the hall right there. Let's do this number. Okay, so I'm using Command T to transform. You can also find the transform command under edit. Let's see, maybe this is image. Some of these are a little different on PCs versus Mac. Okay, yeah, I thought it was under edit. Okay, this is the same as Mac. Okay, edit, transform, click scale, and then shift click to constrain proportions. So hitting enter to select that. And so if when you're working with this, not only are you working with blending modes, but let's say you wanted her to appear down here. You need to like mask out part of her so that she's not just sitting on top of the TV. So for this, you can add a mask layer and then with a brush, remember we're using black and white. White reveals, black hides. So we're just going to quickly paint in. So that she follows the line of the TV. Okay, so now I'm going to boost her transparency back up. Okay, so we're going to use blending modes to make these things look like they're in the TV. And the blending mode, feel free to experiment with different ones, but the blending mode that worked best for most of us was overlay. So we're changing these to overlay. You can also decrease the transparency a little bit if you like, so where you get the image that you want. But I think just doing overlay is enough. You can see that these shapes kind of blend in with the highlights and the shadows of the television. Okay, When you get a composition that you like, you're going to save it. Save it as first initial, last name, PSE1. Oh, no, actually, sorry. I had everyone in the class save it as first initial, last name, TV, and save. And you're going to upload this file to OneDrive. Which one of these is my OneDrive folder? I want you to upload just the TV file to the class shared folder, PSE1, so that we have everyone's final file in the same folder. And then you are also going to upload all of your clipped images and the TV file to your final work folder. You're going to create a folder called PSE1-clipping mask, and you're going to upload all of your files to here. So you should have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 files, 6 clipped images and a TV. Okay, so what else? Aside from that, I've got a separate video on process 2. Be sure to bring your binders in that have your A1 process sketches and list in them on Tuesday. And we assigned section 2 of your Photoshop book. Got lessons 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14. I'm going to give you all a little extra time to work on that next week since we had a snow day this week that got us behind. All of these will be due by the end of next week. Try to do at least the first 3 before class on Tuesday. We'll have a little bit of time in class next Tuesday and Thursday to work on these, but not a ton.